Dracula is back. Back. Because you have called him. Raise your left hand. No, no, you fool. Fool, your left hand. Now, repeat after me. I do hereby swear, aver, and depose that I will hereinafter assist all the efforts of the Count Dracula Society and its coinciding blood bank contribution drives, so long as they remain consistent with the loyalties of an eternally devoted, famous monsters of Filmland fan. And in sign thereof, I will receive all privileges thereto. So help me, Bela Lugosi. Now, you are one of us.
Good evening, and welcome. Once again, we find ourselves huddled together, oh so snugly, around the same crackling communal bonfire, on a gusty stretch of sand-swept Ghoul Beach shoreline. Then again, that's just as it should be, my trusty beach babes and moon doggies. So, gang, let's break out the marshmallows and roast us some weenies. Hang on a second, Big Daddy. I'm just checking here, but you're not by any chance having some sort of massive cerebral hemorrhage incident, are you? Because that's not anything like the show opener, which I painstakingly prepared for you. Bring me my pendulum, kiddies. I feel like swinging. Break out the guitars, the bongos, and let's encourage that energetic young lady wearing the tasseled beach party attire to shake and shimmy until the end credits roll. Precisely what I suspected. This often happens, folks, whenever Tim decides to take a moonlit stroll along the wave-tossed Oregon seashore. I believe that he comes away from such outings having soaked up way too much of that exceedingly potent lunar radiance. You might even say that he is moon drunk. Oh! So now, you fancy yourself as one of those unscrupulous TV doctor types, huh? Carelessly dispensing a freewheeling diagnosis with scarcely the benefit of a formal diploma or a thorough examination. Well, listen here, bub. Oprah doesn't need another quack on the Harpo Quacker Factory payroll. Therefore, I advise you to slow your perilous roll before my leather-jacketed motorcycle gang and I get righteously miffed, and I resort to giving you the finger. Okay then, thanks for the heads up, Timmy Von Zipper. This from the original hair mattress, old Billy Goat, old Pig Bristles himself. Ha! Like I've I've never seen that immensely rude gesture from you before. Anyway, how about getting a hold of yourself and helping me to properly set the stage for tonight's movie, which I can assure everyone has nothing to do with beachcombing or following the ageless summer exploits of Frankie and Annette. All right, you infernal killjoy. Shifting gears here. Picture yourself as being all by your lonesome as you go perambulating along that familiar woodland path, as the last muted rays of sunlight are swallowed up by a crest of hills on the dimming horizon. Well now, that's more like it. That's what I'm talking about. Go ahead, let your horror host freak flag fly. A cold breeze whips around your heels as you resort to cursing yourself for not having left much sooner on your journey home. Then again, all at once, the leaves in the trees are heard to rustle even more noticeably as you hear the night birds sounding their plaintive calls deep into the velvety cloak of darkness. Feeling vulnerable? Feeling uneasy? Feeling scared? Uh-huh. So they canned me hide when I died, Clyde, and that's it hanging on the shed. All together now. Play me didgeridoo, blue. Play me didgeridoo. Good Lord, Tim. Jeez. And you were doing so well, too, at setting the mood for this evening's vintage chiller. You really must enjoy taking everybody to the very precipice of macabre abandon, only to purposely and cruelly dash their joyously ghoulish reveries. Pardon me for ruining your delicate sense of morbid rapture. Believe me, that's not the first prospective orgasm I've spoiled for someone else over the years. My life's course has been conspicuously littered with a multitude of splayed and frustrated lasses who would never be the same again after I sang the final chorus of that song. That's damn peculiar. Somehow, I didn't peg you for being into 1960s novelty recordings, especially those from the land down under. I can assure you, the Monster Mash and They're Coming to Take Me Away, ha-ha, aren't the only beloved vintage singles spinning on my own personal haunted jukebox. Well, there ought to be a law. Regardless, as I assume you were about to say, our movie tonight is one which involves similar eerie nocturnal sojourns to those you began to describe. So then, would you care to finish the task at hand, Mr. Horrible Host? Before I pledge your paycheck to a much more worthy cause. I hereby Roger Ramjet your transmission. This evening's cinematic orphan is a cautionary tale which took place long ago as unspeakable events drew their inky veil down upon an unsuspecting township, and as we shall see, one by one snuffs out the light in each terror-stricken wayfarer's eye. It's entitled Condemned to Live, and it stars Ralph Morgan and Misha Auer. Jeez, at last! Oh, thank the fates, or whomsoever cares to take credit. It's like pulling wisdom teeth just to get the ball rolling around here. By the way, did you realize that Ralph Morgan was actually Frank Morgan's brother? You know, the actor who played the wizard in The Wizard of Oz. Pay no attention to the geekish man behind the curtain, or on the other side of the studio, whatever the case may be. Surely you must know by this point that he lives, eats, and breathes the most desperately dreary accumulations of showbiz trivia. The next thing we know, he'll be insisting that Jack Benny and Fred Allen didn't really despise each other. Hey, funny you should mention that. As the story goes, some feuds are bone deep. Take my word for it. As for the rest of us, let's pop open a tasty beverage and roll this sodding old flick.
Hi, I'm Brinke Stevens, and you're watching Scary as Hell Theater on the Scary as Hell Theater channel.
Ah! Still here, I see. You most certainly have my sympathies. Well, it doesn't take a top-notch Miskatonic University graduate to realize that those Club Congo Tours types were in seriously deep doo-doo once they knowingly sought refuge inside the forbidden lair of those ginormous bloodthirsty bats. Furthermore, a bad situation turned into something considerably worse as they inevitably came to hear the intensifying sounds of those dreaded bongos of horror. I wouldn't necessarily sanction that as a fitting characterization for the cultural or percussive nature of tribal drums. Bongos by any other name. Bongos of horror, I tell you. Bongos sounding their furious rage, their unstoppable, fevered wrath, from the fiery pit, from the very heart of hell itself. Geez, get a load of him, will you? Just wait until I someday unleash the Fay Ray classic, Black Moon, on this feckless schmuck. He's sure to go into acute disequilibrium. All right, fine. If you insist. I know all too well that it's fruitless to argue with you whenever you go digging your heels in like this. Oh, please, give me a break, why don't you? I'm only trying to apply the jaws of life to rescue this low-rent, Poverty Row stink burger, worthy of Stinky Joe's barbecue truck. They even stooped to substituting a dusty corner of that frequently featured Bronson Canyon cave for a bat-infested subterranean cavern, allegedly somewhere on the far distant African continent. Listen here now, you ornately mustached Gene Shalit wannabe. Did you ever hear of a little thing called suspension of disbelief? Really, considering your chosen profession, you ought to give it a try sometime. Trust me, I'm very well acquainted with that particular state of mind. I constantly fall back on it every time I'm forced to look at myself, seated in front of this profoundly lame-o cemetery backdrop. Hey, careful now. Just for once, try not to be such an insufferable snob. Years ago, I was lucky enough to have visited Bronson Canyon. It was back in 1975. The outing was actually something of a high-spirited pilgrimage. Wow, to think that I actually got to walk through the iconic Bat Cave from the 1966 series, or at least that place which represented its exterior setting. The fact that the location was so often used as an option for movies and television doesn't at all lessen its pop cultural significance, not in my mind. Holy geekgasm, Batman! And since you bring up the topic, everyone who's genuinely in the know understands that the biggest reason to have ever watched that sock-it-to-me era Detective Comics tableau was to see the virtuoso portrayals of the villains, rather than those two kooky-caped crime fighters.
Oh, Batman, the great Batman.
What I could have done with a guest starring role as villain of the week. Were there ever to be a revival, I could finally leave all of this Ghoul Beach buffoonery far behind me, assail the dizzying heights of Hollywood greatness, and one day I might even escape the 20th Century Fox television division to star as a proper silver screen blockbuster baddie, courtesy of Fox Spotlight Pictures. It's not like he's ever shrunken from the spotlight. Oh yeah, that's right, Timmy boy. I'm totally in your corner on that account. You are? Really? Oh, sure. I'm convinced that you would be a shoo-in to replace Vincent Price in the role of Egghead. Hear, hear. Tut-tut now. Let he who is without conspicuous male pattern hair loss cast the first stone. Oh? So then, we'll be casting stones, huh? I see. Well, I'll definitely need to brush up on rereading Shirley Jackson's The Lottery. Plus, I'll need to get my pitching arm into better shape. You ought to look right at home while dodging a furious hail of projectiles. However, before we do any of that, what do you think of how our film has cultivated such a shadow-steeped atmosphere up until this point? Surely you jest. I've seen darker shadows on an old soap opera, which I used to run home from school to watch. Although I will say, regarding Professor Kristan, for a man who must write all of his books by candlelight, whilst occupying such an everlasting land of dusk, he certainly has become quite a warming ray of sunshine to those who dwell in this backwards little hamlet. They even ask him when to kiss their wives. When they find themselves in times of trouble, Mother Molly comes to them, speaking words of wisdom. The professor lives for the poor, my dear. Otherwise, yeah, these townspeople do strike me as being the simplest of farmers. People of the land, the common clay of the old world. You know, morons. In the immortal words of Una O'Connor, may they all be murdered in their beds. All except Little Red Riding Hood, at least for the time being. However, doom is not a thing to dilly-dally for long. If memory serves, our radiant little flower girl has rather a pressing appointment still to be kept with the big bad wolf.
Whoa, Wait just a doggone minute, Tom the Embalmer. Pump the brakes and back up the gravy truck. I have to remind you that this piece of garbage that you're hosting has to deal with vampires and has nothing to do with werewolves or wolves of any kind. So don't mix vampires and werewolves. In doing that, you're ultimately dissing my pack brothers. And also, I'm so tired of listening to this stereotypical big bad wolf crap. Every wolf has to put food on the table, whether it be for a half-bred monster bride or their actual pack family. So the wolf has every right to take advantage of anything that comes across his domain. Especially if you're that stupid to go lollygagging through the woods carrying a picnic basket, then it's free game. And as for Little Red Riding Hood, oh please, she was never the innocent victim that she portrayed to be. She flat out teased the beast and then smacked him down for his natural instincts. Anyway, so that's my 2 cents. Take it for what it's worth. Now come on, you guys. Let's get on with this. And don't be so loose with your baseless accusations. Whatever.
Well said, Slash. And thanks for helping to put our mutual foe in his place. Beyond that, I ought to caution you, Tim, not to fall into the trap so early in the show of becoming too pessimistic with respect to our leading lady's chances of survival, regardless of the genre archetype she's threatened by. My stars and garters! Heaven forbid I should ever run afoul of the Lycanthrope Defamation League. Otherwise, my oh-so-prickly Mr. Underling, I thought I painted quite a pleasantly lurid scenario with my earlier comments. I was under the impression that it really yanks your chain whenever I work dark and gloomy. You must think that I adorn my darkling's boudoir with ornate Nightmare Before Christmas wallpaper, a Jack Skellington lampshade on the light by my bedside, while I blithely shuffle around in a pair of plush zero doggy slippers. Don't try to deny it. I've seen that life-size Sally pin-up poster tacked up on the ceiling, directly above your bed. And with that, let's make all haste in getting back to our movie, shall we? Didn't I just light a fire beneath his spotty old rump? By all means, let us rejoin this frighteningly flatulent flicker. Here, vampires. Here, vampires. Come on, come on. Here, vampires. Here, vampires. Come to Papa. So then, we've witnessed what amounts to an on-screen transformation from a professor of letters and civilized pleasantries to a gasping asthmatic with crippling arthritis and hyperactive thyroid disease. In any case, that's what passes for a bloodthirsty vampire in this creaky old terror tale. Is that really the best that they could do? Okay, I'll willingly admit that it doesn't come anywhere close to rivaling the memorable transformation scene in what amounts to my favorite version of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, which starred John Barrymore in one of his finest silent screen roles. Even so, there's still a lot to be said for the prevailing spooky vibe and evidence throughout the film so far. So you say. Also, there's something of a tragic futility for the townspeople to go running to the very person who perpetrated the fiendish act of murder in order to report the victim as missing. Talk about the mother of all circle jerks. You know, Tim, you really do have a particularly jaundiced way of looking at things. Chalk it up to untold years of experience, old boy, together with the accumulation of practical knowledge, which ultimately yielded a lifetime's worth of sage wisdom. Ah, yes, wisdom. Is that what they're calling a steaming load of crap these days? Well now, my bedeviled gluttons for punishment, the time has rather regrettably arrived where we at Scary as Hell Theater must further tax your already overburdened patience and goodwill by descending into the realm of classic horror movie trivia. Gosh, your faith in me at this particular junction is truly touching. Trust me, I can relate to your suffering in ways you can scarcely hope to understand. Nonetheless, perhaps it's better to just get it over with quickly, then spend the rest of our lives seeking the appropriate reparative therapy. It's all yours, Captain Geektastic. Many provisional thanks to you, my very own brown-nosed cowboy. The fact remains, I expect there are at least a few of you out there who are typically interested in these matters, so let's carry on. Condemned to Live was written by Karen DeWolf, whose credits include The Countess of Monte Cristo, 7 Blondie movies, in addition to Shut My Big Mouth and Bury Me Dead. Oh, if only. The director was Frank R. Strayer, the same man who directed 2 previous offerings here on our show. The Vampire Bat and The Monster Walks. He also directed Murder at Midnight, Gorilla Ship, and The Ghost Walks. The cast includes Ralph Morgan in the leading role, whose other horror credits include The Mad Doctor with Basil Rathbone, Night Monster with Bela Lugosi, and The Monster Maker with J. Carrol Naish and Glenn Strange. You'll perhaps remember Misha Auer, who plays Zan the Hunchback, from our presentation of The Monster Walks. Other credits include Murder at Dawn, Sinister Hands, and the popular My Man Godfrey. Pedro de Cordoba as the visiting Dr. Bizet likewise appeared in Ghost Breakers with Bob Hope, and also shared the screen with Boris Karloff in Devil's Island and Before I Hang. So, there you have it, a cornucopia of dusty details that, when excitedly shared, won't even get you to first base on a blind date with the likes of Pepper the Pinhead or Lydia the Tattooed Lady. And on that low note, let us rejoin our feature while my showrunner and I treat ourselves to a mid-feature indulgence of cordial and fresh cakes. Dream on! Given our minuscule budget, you'll simply have to settle for root beer and Twinkies. Ain't that the Zazu Pits? I know. What can I say? Limited funds suck. Oh no. You are the one who sucks. Oh yeah? Yeah. Get stuffed. You suck. Get stuffed. Major suckage. Ram it season. Suck season. Ram it season. Suck season. Ram it season. Suck season. Okay, this is getting us nowhere, Tim. You still suck. You actually suck a great big bag of rancid green wee. All right, enough already. Suckage infinity. Roll the frickin' film.
Hello, Tim the Enchanter here, speaking for a cause with which you might not be too familiar, huddled safe and sound together inside your oh-so-cozy abodes. With new housing and business developments spreading out across the country at a relentless pace, did you ever give any thought to what it must be like for the fabled undead, as they are so cruelly evicted from their family crypts and stately castles, condemned to roam the countryside with scarcely a discarded orange crate to call home? It's not a very pleasant thing, I can assure you. But now, with your dollars, you can actually adopt a wayward vampire, receive a photo and a letter from your very own vampire ward, and rest easy with the knowledge that you went that extra mile to help a bloodsucker who couldn't help themselves. Just call the number at the bottom of your screen, and please help those who are far too proud and regal to ask on their own behalf. Do it today. Do it now. Thank you.
In certain circles, known to us all, it has been said that a rose is a rose, God is an astronaut, and now the monster is a man. Without question, words to ponder, my faithful flock. And owing to the emerging thesis in tonight's film, what other place, known to us all, so effectively lends safe quarter to those things which scare us most, as does the darkness? Truly a universal theme, which characterizes many of the macabre works that we love best. Wow. If I didn't know any better, I'd say that our little mid-feature snack miraculously reinvigorated your outlook on this evening's cinematic fare. Or do I presume too much? Fiddlesticks! I merely aim to demonstrate for everyone to see that whatever you decide to dish out, I can certainly take it, and then some. That may very well be. Nonetheless, I'd be remiss if I didn't make a point of saying that I'm appreciative of the abrupt but welcome philosophical turn you've shown. Yeah? Well, it'll be a cold day along the equatorial longitudes before you creep back into my good graces. Look at you, sitting there, sporting your treasured Danhausen t-shirt. You would do better by ceasing these frivolous side interests and instead seek a fuller appreciation of your headliner host and his utter magnificence. This schmo doesn't know the first thing about who he's dealing with. Speaking of cold, wouldn't you say that it's pretty unforgivably cold of those supercilious townsfolk to heap all of their unfettered fears upon the professor's poor, unassuming manservant, Zan? What good is there in a hunchback? I mean, there he is, imposing on everyone's sympathy. Him and his large, soulful cow eyes. If you ask me, I wouldn't be at all surprised if Zan isn't all he seems, and that he spends his leisure hours skulking outside Marguerite's window, hoping to catch a glimpse of her disrobing. Holy moly, Tim! Projection much? Forget what I said earlier. It's pretty obvious to see where your head is at. In fact, I wouldn't doubt that your countless viewings of the Peeping Tom ritual hazing scene in Sorority Babes and the Slimeball Bolorama hasn't permanently warped your mind. If it's a matter of the mind that you wish to center upon, then you can mind your tongue, you sniveling lunkhead. You happen to be referring to the Citizen Kane of Evil Imps on a Vengeful Rampage movies. I'll thank you to please mind your P's and Q's on that hallowed topic. Oh well, getting back to Zan, I definitely feel as though he's getting the short end of the stick, so to speak, as he simply goes about trying, in every way possible, to serve and protect his master. A murderous master, I might add, who is conspicuously eluding detection thus far by the populace and the authorities. All I can say to that is, perhaps the hunchback would be afforded a greater length in that whole short end business, if that stick weren't stuck so far up your lower South 40. Oh, all right then. Let us nominate dear selfless Zan for a place in the Martyrs' Hall of Fame. Let's all chip in and bestow upon him a $100 gift certificate to the nearest adult bookstore. And while we're at it, maybe we could also hook him up with Dr. Niemann's hunchback nurse, Nina, from House of Dracula. Alas, these headaches, what are they? Why do they come on me?
Oops.
Uh-oh. Your headache starts to pound. Its tension tightens your nerves. Feel it?
Before you reach the end of your rope, reach for help. Reach for brain bliss. Brain bliss, with a specific compound doctors prescribe most for pain relief. Brain bliss relaxes tension as it relieves pain. It's true, brain bliss relieves pain fast, so your nerves feel calmed. Tension is relaxed.
My headache's gone, and just in time, too. I was just about to strangle all of those little bastards.
Remember, reach for help, reach for brain bliss, and tell your headache to piss the hell off.
You know what? Mothers don't get nearly enough credit for not having lost their cool altogether when we were kids and committing mass murder on a monumental scale. Guess again. As long as I can remember, and certainly as long as the internet has been operational, I have gone above and beyond the call of duty to always show the appropriate appreciation and ardent support to mothers everywhere. Pull the other leg, why don't you? I don't think that your long hours trolling in the MILF hookup message boards qualifies as showing the appropriate kind of respect I'm talking about. That reminds me, I have a previously arranged appointment for some online heavy breathing just after the top of the next hour. So, perhaps we can move this little mutt and donkey show along here. Daddy's got some hot prospects. Ew, Tim. Just ew. That's right, my fellow fetishists. Big Daddy Tim has some serious TCB action in the offing. So, let's try to get this creaky old hearse back on the road toward our inevitable destination, the dimly lit conclusion of this epic fail of a film. If perhaps some of you haven't gotten your requisite dose of star-crossed anxieties or cave spelunking, you're in luck.
I am Michael McQuary, and you are watching Scary as Hell Theater.
Ah!
I wouldn't turn away if I were you.
That movie seems to have boasted of a lot more in the way of provocative doings than I originally gave it credit for. Frankly, between all that eyebrow-raising business of beating off a blood-engorged bat and sucking on a solicitous hunchback, I'd say that we're righteously giving the premium adult film outlets a run for their money. I have to admit, I've never known anybody else, other than you, Sir Prancelot, who so completely lives up to those memorable lines. Your mind's in the gutter, your love's in the sink. Don't you seek to diss me, you double-wide toady, with any such cherry-picked, thick-as-a-brick quotations. Also, the only conceivable reason why that sneaky hunchback was standing by to intervene in Marguerite's plight is because he was peeping through the maiden's window. Let me state for the record that I definitely know a perv when I see one. Ha! No doubt. Birds of a feather. It takes one to know one, and all that. However, to the more learned eye, it's pretty clear that Zan's primary motivation, by keeping such close tabs on things, was to protect the girl from any bodily harm, and to make sure that his master didn't yield to his baser instincts should darkness fall over their late-night rendezvous. Honestly, you'd have to be blind as a bat not to see that Zan was a prevailing force for good throughout the entire tale. Leave it to old Stevie Numbnuts to always try to see the silver lining in any and all darkly drawn situations. Regardless, this vampiric tale certainly operated within the confines of its very own vampire rules. As the professor observed, perhaps it is as well. We are well lighted. And by that same token, what of us here? Does that concern likewise apply to us? If so, then we may rest assured that we are well lighted, if not well compensated. All I can say is, according to my many years of dubious experience with you, Timmy boy, I've never actually known you to exhibit any allergic symptoms to light. Much like the stage-trotting thespians of old, I don't believe you've ever encountered a spotlight that you didn't soak up like a giant bloviating sponge. Iris, my dear, would you be so kind as to adjust that key light over there? I don't believe my eyes have the properly distinguished glint to them. Still, it's an interesting point that you make. In this film, they seem to have conjured and cultivated some fairly rigid vampire logic all their own. Gone are any customary references to sleeping by day, or the avoidance of sunlight itself, or even the brandishing of garlic or crosses for protection. Much of their focus has been on the protective qualities of light, and how the veil of darkness would trigger our leading player's transformation into a murderous monster. Be that as it may, we seem to have unearthed one of those lesser exhibited entries in the fang and cape genre, stagey and derivative as it was of the director's previous works. Why, I was half expecting to see Dwight Fry go leaping yet again into that bottomless pit.
Come on, Herman, we won't hurt you. Come on.
No! No! No!
Come, that settles him. Yes,
Perhaps you have a point there, but try not to let it go to your copper-plated dome. Then again, what we are free to do is to bring you the latest entry in our ongoing Horror Host tribute segment.
Well now, group, I don't know if this show goes to Parma, but I'm satisfied that we're there in spirit after our affectionate tribute to the maestro of all stunningly original horror hosts, Ghoulardi. It can truly be said that the Love Boat could be filled beyond capacity by all those who still cherish that Cleveland, Ohio legend, Ernie Anderson, a motorcycle-riding, firecracker-lighting purveyor of roguish anarchy and diabolical fun. I agree completely, Tim. When Ghoulardi was conceived, it was a clear case of capturing lightning in a bottle, although many have tried in the years since to carry that legacy forward. There's simply no replacing that palpable and infectious quality of pranksterism and flying by the seat of his pants mayhem. It's mind-boggling to contemplate the things he got away with during his live TV broadcasts, but the public tuned in, literally in droves, and loved him all the more for his unpredictability and boldness. All right, what in blazes are you up to now, over there in your creepy showrunner's corner? I just have a little unfinished business to attend to here. Don't you ever get tired of yourself? And so, your silly, inconsequential activities couldn't have perhaps waited until we managed to wrap things up on the show. What gives, huh? I assure you, this is quite important. You see, all of the neighboring Ghoul Beach populace are quite excitedly taking part in a raffle. A very special raffle, in fact. Call it an early kickstart to the town's annual Autumn Harvest Festival celebrations. Listen up. I'm all about such fun-filled fall festivities, especially when it involves snarfing those delectable funnel cakes, or trying my hand at tossing the mini sandbag, which, once hurled, sends the precariously perched carnival cutie or local government official into the watery dunk tank. Well, things being what they are this year in our sleepy corner of Oregon, they've decided to reactivate what was once a regular tradition. The raffle, I mean. Up until now, everyone concerned has entered into the community drawing with all of their own names scribed on these slips of paper. Furthermore, in accordance with established requirements, I likewise submitted our names. So, they've actually asked if you, Tim, would consent to act as sanctioned drawing official and randomly pull the winner's name from this bowl. Me? Me, you say? Really? They like me. They really like me. Well, I'm hardly surprised. After all, what better choice could they have made? Yeah, I figured you'd say something along those lines. It's the very least that I can do. Give them what they want, I say. There wouldn't by any chance be some kind of honorarium connected with this duty, would there? Oh, I dare say there will be a sizable payoff in the end. Fine then. Done and dished up. Let's not keep them waiting. Okay, folks, here goes. Do I get a drum roll? I think we've had enough bongos of horror for one evening. Party pooper, but hey, it matters not.
I, as the officially ordained plucker of entries, do hereby make my selection. And here it is. Well, go ahead. Read the name out for all to hear, so that the ritual will have been joined. And the lucky winner is... me? It's me. Can this be right? It's me, it's my name. Right here in black and white. Hey, imagine that, will ya? Okay, what do I get now? Is this when Miss Gould Beach comes jumping out of a cake? What's the big prize? And how much did it cost retail? Here it comes. Jeez, what a dope! What a maroon! I'm amazed that he didn't notice all of these other slips of paper with his name on them.
A bee, that's all, folks.